It's 7269, and you're born into a world of war, shifting alliances, and a whole lot of people who already don't like you. The island of Corsica, where you take your first breath, is a small, rocky, mountainous mess, freshly stolen by France from the Republic of Genoa. Your family? Nobles in name only. You have a title, but good luck finding the fortune that's supposed to come with it. Your dad, Carlo Bonaparte, is a man with big dreams and no way to pay for them. He starts off as a Corsican revolutionary, fighting against the French. But when it becomes obvious that Corsica isn't winning, he switches sides faster than a politician caught in a scandal. You're stuck with the consequences. You're now technically French, but to the French, you're still a Corsican peasant. And, oh boy, they do not let you forget it. By the time you're 9 years old, your father, ever the opportunist, manages to secure a scholarship for you to attend school in France. He's dead set on making you into a proper Frenchman, whether you like it or not. Your new home? Brienne Military Academy. Sounds fancy, but here's the problem. You don't speak French properly. You don't dress like the rich kids. You don't come from a wealthy family. From the moment you walk through those doors, you're mocked relentless. Your thick Corsican accent turns everyday French words into a linguistic battlefield. Your classmates, rich, well-fed and deeply annoying, make sure you know that you're not one of them. So what do? You adapt. You stop speaking Corsican and force yourself to think in French. You start reading obsessively. History, philosophy, anything that will give you an edge. You study military tactics like they're your only ticket out of this nightmare. While the rich kids are fencing for fun, you're imagining how to take over the world. But the bullying never stops. Even your height becomes a running joke. Yep, the whole Napoleon was short myth. It started here. Never mind that you were actually average height for the time. To them, you were always the small, angry Corsican. Your only comfort, hatred fuels ambition. Broke, starving and still stuck in France. By 16 you're officially a French military officer. Congrats, right? Nope. Being an artillery lieutenant sounds impressive until you realize you have to pay for your own uniform, sword and living expenses. And you're still broke as hell. You live in cheap, rat-infested housing and survive on a diet that makes prison food look gourmet. You're constantly borrowing money, constantly dodging debt collectors, and constantly stressing over how to feed your family because your dad just died of stomach cancer, leaving your mother and 7 siblings looking to you for support. Did I mention you're only 17? Your social life, non-existent. Your love life, even worse. You're too broke to court a woman, too ambitious to care, and too consumed by proving everyone wrong to notice. You want glory. You want power. You want revenge against every aristocratic idiot who ever laughed at you. And then, boom, France erupts into revolution. The revolution saves your career and almost kills you. In 1789, the French people finally snap. The monarchy collapses, heads roll literally, and suddenly the entire power structure flips upside down. And guess what? The revolution needs soldiers. Napoleon, ever the opportunist, throws himself into the chaos. He realizes that this is his moment, the moment where talent actually matters more than birthright. In 1793 he gets his first real break. Royalists and British forces take control of the city of Toulon. The French government is desperate to take it back. The generals in charge, completely useless. Enter Napoleon. With his mathematical genius and tactical obsession, he redesigns the entire artillery strategy. Within a few weeks, the British are fleeing, the city is back under French control, and Napoleon is promoted to brigadier general at 24. That's right, 24 years old. A nobody Corsican is suddenly one of the youngest generals in France. For the first time in your life you have power. Too bad it's about to get ripped away from you. Your first fall from grace. From general to prisoner. By 1794 the revolution is eating itself alive. The same government that made you a hero. Yeah, They're not doing so great. The guy who promoted you, executed. The people who supported you, gone. And you? You're suddenly looking very, very suspicious. One day, you're a rising military star. The next, you're thrown in prison, staring at the walls, wondering if today's the day you get dragged to the guillotine. Your crime, being too close to the wrong people. For weeks you sit in a dark, filthy cell, waiting to find out if you'll live or die. Then, luck. A government official takes a second look at your case, realizes you might actually be useful, and just like that, you're released. But now, you're blacklisted. No one trusts you. You're jobless, penniless, and humiliated. Just a few months ago, you were one of the most promising young generals in France. Now, you're wandering the streets of Paris, broke, aimless, and angry. You start writing letters to government officials, begging for a new command. Nobody answers. At 26 years old, it looks like your career is over before it even began. And just when you're about to give up, history throws you one more chance. The streets of Paris stink of desperation. The revolution is still in full swing, but it's not the glorious rebellion of the people anymore. It's a bloody mess of factions stabbing each other in the back. And you're 26 years old, unemployed, and walking around with nothing but a few coins and a reputation that's sinking fast. Nobody cares that you helped win Toulon. Nobody cares that you're a tactical genius. Right now you're just another out-of-work officer begging for a second chance. Then, in 1795, Paris explodes. Royalists, the people who want to bring back the monarchy, start an armed rebellion against the revolutionary government. The government panics. They don't have enough troops in Paris, and if the royalists win, it's over. They need someone ruthless, someone brilliant. Someone who doesn't care about breaking the rules. That someone, you. A politician named Paul Barras remembers how you saved Toulon and offers you a deal. Crush the rebellion and you get power. Fail and you die. You accept without hesitation. You don't have time to raise an army. The royalists are marching toward the government buildings, and if they make it, the revolution is finished. So you come up with a plan so brutal, so efficient, that it cements your reputation forever. You position cannons along the streets of Paris and load them with grape shot. Basically metal balls that turn into a shotgun blast from hell. When the royalists get close, you unleash hellfire on them. The streets become a bloodbath. The royalists scatter. Broken and defeated, you just saved the French government in a single day. And what do they do in return? They reward you with absolute power. You are now the commander of all French forces in Italy. One day, you are wandering the streets, broke and forgotten. The next, you're leading an entire army. Welcome to the Italian campaign. So here's the thing about the army of Italy. It sucks. It's underfunded, outnumbered, and starving. The soldiers haven't been paid in months. They don't trust their officers, and morale is lower than the value of French currency. Your job: turn this disaster into a winning army. And somehow you do. You give speeches about glory, victory and riches, promising them that they won't just survive, they'll conquer. Then you take them on a campaign that nobody expected you to win. The Austrians and Italians outnumber you at every battle, but your speed and aggression overwhelm them. You move your army at insane speeds, attacking where the enemy least expects it. You ignore traditional war tactics and rely on sheer speed and chaos. In just a few months, you go from leading a starving, hopeless army to conquering Italy and forcing Austria into peace. You take treasure, weapons, land and resources, and you don't just send it to the government, you pay your men. They adore you. You just went from a random officer to the most famous general in France. With victory comes jealousy. Other generals despise you because you're not from an aristocratic family. Politicians fear you because you're too popular. Your own government doesn't trust you because, well, you're clearly smarter than them. So instead of rewarding you for conquering Italy, they try to get rid of you by sending you on a suicide mission to Egypt. They tell you it's to cut off British trade routes, but you know the real reason they want you out of France. You don't care. You take the mission anyway. You pack up an army, set sail and land in Egypt, ready to carve your name into history. And then, everything goes straight to hell. Egypt is not like Italy. The heat is unbearable. The food supply is garbage. Your men are dying from disease faster than from battle. The only thing keeping them going is you. And at first, you actually win. You defeat the Egyptian forces, march into Cairo, and act like you're the next Alexander the Great. Then the British show up. Admiral Horatio Nelson, Britain's best naval commander, hunts down your fleet and obliterates it. Suddenly, you and your army stranded in the middle of a desert. No reinforcements, no retreat, just you, your men, and the reality that you're probably going to die in Egypt. But here's the thing about you. You don't accept defeat. You hear that France is falling apart again. The government that sent you here, it's collapsing. You know what that means, opportunity. So in one of the most ridiculous escape moves ever, you ditch your army, sneak onto a ship and sail back to France. Yeah, you just abandoned thousands of men in Egypt. But the moment you set foot in Paris, guess what? Nobody cares. They don't care that you lost your fleet. They don't care that you ditched your army in the desert. They only care about one thing. Napoleon is back, and France needs saving. Because guess what? The French government is collapsing again. And when you show up, the people want you to fix it. So, Paris is a mess, again. The French government, known as the Directory, is corrupt, weak, and falling apart faster than an overcooked baguette. The people, sick of it. The army, ready for change. And you? You see your chance. By now you're the most famous man in France. People don't even say General Bonaparte anymore. It's just Napoleon. One name, like Caesar, like Alexander. And in 1799 you decide, it's time to stop taking orders. It's time to take power. The coup, how to take over a country in 24 hours. The plan is simple. Convince politicians that the Directory is about to collapse, which isn't even a lie. Gather your most loyal soldiers, march into the government chambers and politely tell everyone that they're fired. That last part? It doesn't go as smoothly as you'd like. When you show up, some politicians start yelling at you. Some call you a traitor. One even tries to stab you. And for a moment, it looks like your brilliant coup is about to turn into a disaster. Then, your soldiers storm in. Within minutes, the entire government is under your control. The Directory? Gone. In its place, you create something new. The consulate. And guess who's in charge? You. Technically, you share power with 2 other consuls. But everyone knows the truth. Napoleon runs the show now. The revolution? Over. The monarchy? Dead. For the first time, you control France. And the first thing you do, make sure no one can ever take it away from you. The Napoleon makeover. From general to dictator. You're not just a military genius. You're also a master of propaganda. You start rewriting your own story. Suddenly, newspapers are painting you as France's savior. Your name is everywhere. Your face is on paintings, coins, and statues. And the people? They love it. You do something that no one before you could. You bring order. France, after years of chaos, beheadings, and revolution, finally feels stable. You reform laws, fix the economy, and most importantly, you create the Napoleonic Code. This law code is so good that countries are still using parts of it today. And just like that, you go from being a general who took power by force to the leader who saved France. But there's one problem. France isn't just France. It's surrounded by countries that hate you. Britain, Austria, Russia, Prussia. They all want you gone. So what do? You start fighting all of them. At the same time, the war machine, how to beat every country in Europe. Between 1800 and 1805, you obliterate every army that stands in your way. First, you crush Austria in Italy, then you smash the combined Austrian and Russian forces at the Battle of Austerlitz, 1805, your greatest victory ever. One battle, one day. You annihilate two of Europe's biggest armies. But then, the British show up. Trafalgar, the one battle you can't win. Britain has one thing that you don't, the greatest navy in the world. In 1805, your fleet goes up against Admiral Horatio Nelson at the Battle of Trafalgar. And let's just say, it's not even close. The British wipe out your entire navy. This means one thing. You will never invade Britain, ever. You can beat any army on land, but you can't cross the sea. So, you change the strategy. If you can't beat Britain militarily, you'll destroy them economically. You create something called the Continental System, a blockade that's supposed to choke Britain's economy. But it doesn't work, because while you're busy trying to bankrupt Britain, they're busy funding your enemies. And now, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Spain, they all declare war on you. Great. Another war. Spain, the country that won't stay conquered in 1808, you decide that Spain's king is useless, so you replace him with your brother Joseph Bonaparte. The Spanish, not happy, they start a brutal guerrilla war, ambushing your troops, killing your officers, and turning every town and village into a death trap. And worst of all, the British send an army under the Duke of Wellington to help them. What should have been a quick occupation turns into a nightmare that drains your empire for years, and while Spain is bleeding you dry, you make the biggest mistake of your life. 1812, the Russian disaster. You've beaten every major power in Europe, you're at the height of your power. But there's one country left that won't listen to you. Russia. Tsar Alexander I refuses to follow your continental system. So you decide, if he won't obey, I'll make him. You gather the biggest army Europe has ever seen, over 600,000 men, and in June 1812 you march into Russia. At first, it's easy. The Russians don't fight you head-on. They retreat deeper into the country, burning everything behind them. By the time you reach Moscow, the city is in flames. There's no supplies, no food, no shelter. Then, winter hits. Temperatures drop to 40. Your soldiers freeze to death in the snow. Your horses collapse from exhaustion. Russian guerrillas attack your starving army, and suddenly, the greatest army in Europe is dying by the thousands. You order a retreat, but it's too late. By the time you make it out of Russia, only 20,000 of your 600,000 troops are left. It's the worst disaster of your life. And now, your enemies know you're weak. The fall of Napoleon begins. Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Britain all declare war on you. Your army, destroyed. Your empire, falling apart. In 1813, at the Battle of Leipzig, you fight the biggest battle in history, and you lose. Now, the Allies are marching on Paris. Your generals, telling you it's over. And in 1814 they force you to abdicate. Your punishment? Exile to a tiny island called Elba. One day, you are the Emperor of Europe. The next, you're sitting on a rock in the middle of nowhere, wondering where it all went wrong. But here's the thing, you're not done yet, because in less than a year, you're about to make the greatest comeback in history. The year is 1814, and you, Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of the French, conqueror of Europe, master of the battlefield, are now a guy on a tiny island. Elba, your new home. Population? A few thousand farmers and fishermen. Your army? 600 personal guards. Your empire? Gone. Laughing their asses off. You're officially defeated. Or at least that's what they think. Welcome to Elba, the worst retirement ever. So what's it like going from ruling an empire to being the mayor of a rock? Not great. You try to keep busy, setting up new roads, better agriculture, even a postal service. But let's be honest, this is humiliating. Meanwhile, back in France, things are falling apart. King Louis XIII, the monarch that the Allies put back on the throne, is a disaster. The army hates him, the people miss you. And you? You're just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That moment comes in February 1815. The escape, one ship, 1,000 men, and a dream. After less than a year in exile, you decide, screw this. I'm taking France back. With one ship and 1,000 men, you set sail straight for the French coast. And when you land, the French army is already there waiting to arrest you. So what do? You walk straight up to them, open your coat and shout, "If any of you want to kill your emperor, here I am." Silence. Then they throw down their weapons and join you. By the time you reach Paris, your army has swelled to tens of thousands. King Louis XIII runs for his life, and just like that, you're emperor again. No bloodshed, no battles, just sheer legend status. You've just pulled off the greatest comeback in history. But here's the problem. Every country in Europe is now coming to kill you. The 100 Days, the last gamble. Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia. They all swore that if you ever came back, they'd destroy you for good. And now they're marching toward France with 1 million troops. You have less than 200,000 men, but you're Napoleon, and you still believe you can win. So you move fast. You raise an army. You rebuild your government. And within weeks, you're leading your troops into Belgium to strike first. If you can beat the British and Prussians before the others arrive, you might actually pull this off. And that's when you fight the most famous battle of your life. Waterloo, the final stand. June 18, 1815. The battlefield? Waterloo, Belgium. You face two armies. The British, led by the Duke of Wellington. The Prussians, led by Gebhard von Blücher. You have one goal: crush Wellington before the Prussians arrive. And at first, you're winning. Your men break through British lines. Wellington's forces are barely holding on. One final attack could end the battle. And then, rain. A massive storm turns the battlefield into a muddy disaster. Your cannons? Useless. Your cavalry charges? Slowed down. By the time your troops finally launch their last attack, the Prussians arrive. And suddenly, it's over. Your army collapses. Your empire collapses. You've just lost everything. The second fall. No more comebacks. After Waterloo, you rush back to Paris, hoping to raise another army. But this time, no one is coming to save you. Your generals surrender. Your supporters abandon you. Even your government turns on you. So you do something you never thought you'd do. You abdicate. Again. This time, there's no exile to Elba. No small island where you get to rule like a mini-king. This time, the British take, and they send you to St. Helena, a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. No escape, no army, no hope. You're done. St. Helena, a living death. For 6 years, you waste away on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Your home, a damp, moldy house. Your guards, British officers who hate your guts. Your final years, spent stating your memoirs, trying to rewrite your legacy. Your health, failing fast. And on May 5, 1821, at just 51 years old, you die. Cause, some say stomach cancer. Some say poison. Either way, the greatest conqueror of his time, the Emperor of the French, the man who once ruled all of Europe, dies alone, exiled, forgotten. No glory, no army, no comeback, just silence. You're dead. At 51 years old, you take your last breath on St. Helena, a prisoner of the British, a man who once ruled all of Europe, now rotting on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Your empire, gone. Your army, scattered. Your enemies, still laughing. You died a failure, an exile, a forgotten man. Or at least, that's what they thought. Because while you may be buried in the dirt, your name is about to live forever. Napoleon the myth. How a loser became a legend. Here's the thing about you, Napoleon. You were never just a general, a ruler, or a politician. You were a storyteller. And in the last years of your life, you did something no other fallen leader had done before. You wrote your own legend. As you wasted away on St. Helena, you spent every waking moment dictating your memoirs, spinning your failures into victories, your defeats into injustices, your exile into martyrdom. By the time you died, you had turned yourself into a tragic hero. Not a dictator who lost everything, but a man who was betrayed, a man who was too great for the world he lived in. The French people ate it up. The world believed it. And soon, your name became bigger than ever. The funeral that shook France for 19 years, your body rotted in St. Helena's dirt, far from the country you once ruled. Then, in 1840, the French decided, Napoleon doesn't belong in exile, he belongs in Paris. So, in one of the most dramatic, over-the-top funerals in history, they brought your body back to France. Millions lined the streets as your coffin was paraded through Paris, draped in imperial banners, your legend stronger than ever. You were no longer a disgraced exile, you were Napoleon the Great. And today, you still lie in a massive tomb in Paris, as if you never lost it all. Napoleon's legacy, what you left behind. So, after all that, after conquering Europe, losing it all, and dying in exile, what did you actually leave behind? A lot. You changed how wars were fought. Before you, armies were slow and rigid. You made them fast, flexible, and unpredictable. Every modern general still studies your battles. You rewrote the law. The Napoleonic Code is still used today in dozens of countries. You made laws fairer, clearer, and more equal. Unless you were a woman, in which case, oops. You destroyed and rebuilt Europe. You ended the old feudal order. You spread revolutionary ideas across the continent. You set the stage for modern Europe. Even the countries that hated you had to adapt to your changes. You proved that one man could change history. You weren't born into power. You took it. And in doing so, you became one of the most famous humans to ever live. So, was it worth it? Here's the big question. If you could do it all over again, would you? Would you still fight every battle? Would you still march to Moscow? Would you still risk everything, knowing that in the end you'd die alone on an island? You probably would, because Napoleon, if there was one thing you feared more than defeat, it was being forgotten. And guess what? You never were. The end. That's it. That's Napoleon. A boy from Corsica who rose higher than anyone thought possible, and then lost it all. A man who rewrote history, not just with battles, but with words. A man who, despite dying alone, became immortal. And that, my friend, is why it sucked to be Napoleon.